started. I would like to call to order the Shakopee Public Schools Board Business Meeting for Monday, July 10th, 2017. Sarah, would you please call the roll?
Bowerman.
Yes, ma'am.
Hallett. Here. McKeon.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Romansky. Here. Tucker. Here. And Swanson.
Good evening. All right, we'll move on to item 2. We are Shakopee Schools Good News items. There are a number of students in the audience today, and we have actually 2 different groups that we're going to be talking about, correct? So I would like to start with Liz Dewar, since I don't see Mr. Greeley here just yet. So Liz, would you like to go ahead and stand up and introduce your team?
Yeah. So we are HOSA. HOSA stands for Health Occupation Students of America. And this group, we're -1 today, but this group of students went to Florida to compete in the international HOSA competition. And in order to do that, they had to place well enough at state. And they went down to Florida and they competed in creative problem solving and then research, persuasive speaking, and writing.
Could we have them all stand up?
Yes.
You guys mind to come over the room? All right.
You guys want to say something?
Sure.
How about give us your names?
Yeah,
I'm Ankit Arun. I'm going to be a senior this year.
I'm Anoop Demira. I'm going to be a junior.
I'm Nicole Nimakabote, and I'm going to be a freshman at University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
And my name is Jennifer Thatch, and I'll be a freshman at St. Cloud State University.
Yeah, so HOSA stands for Health Occupation Students of America. When people ask us what it means, we like to say it's basically like a medical club. It's for those who want to do something with like health or medicine. So like for us, we are like really passionate about it. So what we've been doing is, besides competing, we've organized blood drives at our school. We've had 2 blood drives. And we competed at this thing called Midwinters, which is a practice for state. Then we competed at state, and since all of us placed well enough, we went to nationals. But it's just really a good opportunity to build those connections with everyone, because health field, you have to build connections. And also just a good opportunity to figure out what we want to do with our lives, figure out all those health careers that are available to us.
Anybody else want to speak?
Well, within competitions, there's various opportunities to learn about which medical field you would like to do. So you can do like research persuasive speaking, which both Ankit and I did. We had to do either a drug paper, or which one did you do?
Smartphone addiction.
Smartphone addiction. You like go in depth. You go in depth on like what your brain actually does and how the brain is affected with either of those activities.
For our event, we did creative problem solving. So basically, you take a test first, and then the second round is an oral round. So they give you like a problem. So at state, our problem was performance-enhancing drugs, like within high school, like athletes. So they give us like 30 minutes to come up with a solution and everything, and then we have to present it to the judges.
So a lot of concepts in HOSA really range from like group activities to individual ones. There's also, we did a group one, they did like individual ones. There's like job seeking skills and things that can help you grow, and actually help you in the real world as well. Some things do relate to like the medical field, but also just relate to like others and your connections with other people and being able to connect with someone more professional and seeing like what the difference between that and like just going to school with, and to connect with a lot of other people as well, being in HOSA.
I realize it could change, but what is the field you each 4 would like to go into?
Well, for me, I'm leaning towards pediatrics. At first, I was like, yeah, surgery. I'm going to be a heart surgeon. And then I saw how much time commit that is. I'm like, no.
I want to be more an everything person, so I was leaning towards a general practitioner, your everyday doctor, not too much stress in the situation.
I'm leaning towards radiology.
And I'm majoring in nursing. I'm probably going to go towards pediatrics because I currently work at a child care center, so being in pediatrics would be really good for me.
Good luck.
Good. Thank you.
Great work.
What a lot. Thanks.
Thanks, you guys. Great job.
Feel free to stay. It's exciting stuff.
No, we're just kidding.
All right, Bob Greeley. He's next.
We're recognizing 3 Destination Imagination teams that qualified for the state tournament earlier this spring. Actually, Shakopee has 6 teams that ended up going into competition. 3 qualified for the state event earlier, and so we're recognizing those 3 teams tonight. So the first team we're going to recognize, and I need to apologize, I just got off driving back from St. Paul, Minnesota. Just pulled up just now. So, is the Improv Challenge category secondary and high school team organized mess. And so we have, I don't know how many team members are here tonight for organized mess. Are any of them here? If you want, you stand up, please.
Come on up, my Bob.
Come on up. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Sounds great.
Go ahead.
I'm Himani. I will be a junior now going into high school, and this is Team Organized Mess is our name. Oh, I'm Catherine McComas-Bussy, and we're all good. Yeah.
I am Michael.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys finished in first place in the regional competition. How did you guys finish in the state competition?
We took second place in the state
You
competition.
took second place.
Yeah.
So they were one category away from going to nationals in Knoxville.
We qualified for
That's right, they did, but you did, they took the first, well, right, exactly, depending on the yes. That changes every year how they do that. So congratulations to you guys. Any board members have any questions for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what
Right.
you did?
So we did the improv challenge, which is one of 5 challenges that you get to pick with your team. All of them are team oriented, so you have to work with a lot of teamwork skills, especially in improv, because you don't go in with that much preparation, obviously, so you have to work on the spot. And to prepare for that, we did a lot of practices beforehand, and when we got there, we put those skills to the test. And we're glad it paid off. We qualified for globals, even though we weren't able to make it this year.
That's right. I wanted to follow up a little bit about Destination Imagination for the board members, everybody here, that it's an international volunteer-led organization led by your parents, lead the group. Purpose is to inspire and to equip students to become the next generation of innovators and leaders. Teams are grouped by age categories and choose one of 7 challenges to compete in the regional, state, and ultimately global level. As they solve their challenge, DI teams learn 21st century skills. You know, we've always talked about that at the board level. Creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, citizenship, and courage. So congratulations, guys. So we'll introduce the other 2 teams.
Any chance
Take
you,
a photo now or any more questions?
Any chance you've got like your best 30 seconds you can give us?
It's been a while. Do you have a prompt? Maybe then we could.
All right. Sorry.
Take a photo here, these guys. The challenge that they required teams to prepare and present a skit in 3 minutes, a total of 3 times, each in a different genre. Teams were given the story, prompt, genre, and stock character, and had to quickly improvise using props from their box of stuff. So that's, congratulations, guys.
Very cool. Congratulations, you guys. Thank you.
Great work.
All right. Who's next?
And then we have the middle level team that made it to the state tournament and split the switch. Come on up, guys. They placed 7th out of 12 teams at the state level. Why don't you guys come up here and introduce yourselves?
I'm Carter. I'm going into 7th grade.
I'm a Grim, I'm also going into 7th grade.
I'm Swithy, I'm going into 6th grade. I'm Libby Henderson, I'm going into 7th grade. I'm Paige, and I'm going into 8th grade.
Anybody have any questions of these guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us what you did?
We also did an improv.
And what place did you guys finish when you were in regional competition? First place.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Any other questions or comments from board
Will you
members?
keep doing this? You like it enough to keep doing it?
Yeah. Me and Grim have been doing it the longest, but then everyone else kept going. We haven't had anyone that stopped.
When did you start?
We started the first year with Ken, so 3rd grade.
Okay.
We've been doing it for 4 years.
Wow. That's really cool. That's
We'll look
awesome.
forward to seeing more good results in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Congratulations, guys.
And our next team is the Fierce Saber Techno Detectives, who participated in the scientific challenge at the elementary level. Come on up, guys. And they placed 12th out of 18 teams at the state competition. So we got 2 members here.
Are we missing any members? Oh, it's just the
Only
2 of
two?
you.
Ooh.
We're missing 4. Oh, yeah. Okay. And your names?
My name's Yuan. My name's Abe.
Okay, so when you guys were in the regional competition, what place did you guys finish in, do you remember?
I think we finished in second.
Second place, that's great. And I know you guys, and all the teams spent a lot of time practicing all winter and spring into the competition, and the parents were very supportive, and the coaches, sometimes the parents were the coaches, and very supportive of them. So we want to thank the parents, the coaches, the volunteers of the program, especially our students participating in the program. It's a great program, and we're honored and privileged to be a part of that. So, any questions from the board members?
Can you tell us what you did?
Well, we did the scientific challenge, so we had to make a story about a detective or detectives in our case that go undercover to solve a mystery. And so basically we had, basically the story was about 2 detectives that went undercover as the bad guys to try to steal information that the bad guys had stole from the good guys.
Very cool. That's so cool. That's great.
Well done.
Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, parents. All right, we'll move on to item 3, and that's consideration of the agenda as presented with additions, and I would like 2.1. What's that we already did? Oh, 2.1, oh my gosh. I totally forgot. I'm so excited. I'm like, what am I
Try looking at your left once in a while.
Now that everybody left.
Sorry, the kids, I always take, I get first in position. All right, so backing up to 2.1, I would like to introduce and officially welcome our acting interim superintendent, Dr. Kevin Gierken. Kevin, welcome. Any words of wisdom for your board? That says it all. All right, and I'd also like to introduce another new face who is back against the wall over there next to Nancy Toole, and that is Mr. Keith Gray. Keith is our new Director of HR. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
All right, lots of good changes. Okay, now we will move on to item 3, consideration of the agenda as presented with additions. I would like to call out that we are going to go ahead and poll items 4.4 through 4.9. These are the change orders. And we're going to poll them. We're actually going to move them down the agenda to somewhere in the neighborhood of 6.4, which is going to be a general construction update plus self-site development, all kinds of good stuff there. And the main reason is there's a lot of meat in those change orders that individuals are probably going to ask about. So we're going to go ahead and move them and be able to speak to them. And Chris Zemer is here from ICS, who'll be able to speak to that. Are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Mary? Second. Second by Tony. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to item 4, consent items. I'd like to entertain, well, let's see, now we're going to approve consent, since we've moved the 4.4 to 4.9. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve consent.
I'll move that.
Second. Moved by Reggie, second by Matt. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we will jump to item 5, old business discussion items. We're going to start with 5.1, which is our interim superintendent process. And Sean Bell, our personnel chair, will be giving us an update on the search for an interim superintendent.
Thank you. So as you know, we are currently searching for an interim superintendent. And I will admit that when we started this process, based purely on the time of year that we are doing this, I was a little bit worried that we wouldn't have a strong candidate pool. But thankfully, I have been proven wrong. And I really think that we are going to have some great leadership here in the very near future. I'm very excited. The Personnel Committee, which is Matt and Tony and I, we have established a candidate pool of 17 candidates. They were names that were either referred to us or individually contacted us who were interested in helping us fill this role. And we're currently finishing the process of vetting these candidates to determine if they fit into the parameters that we set forth at the June 26th retreat. The plan is to have one more personnel committee meeting to narrow the candidate pool to 2 to 3 candidates, or finalists. And just so you guys are aware, in order to stay within Minnesota statutes and laws, until candidates are named as finalists, they are protected by data privacy laws. And so once we do have our finalists, we will bring those names forth. And we will be interviewing them as a whole with the board. So, and while we haven't confirmed a date, and I'm actually hoping we can talk about that a little bit right now, I'm hoping that we can tentatively plan on June or July 20th to do the interviews for the finalists. If that doesn't work, I would like to get it done sometime by the end of July, so that we hope to have an interim superintendent in place by mid-August.
July is the
20th.
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
It's a Thursday.
That works for me.
I'm assuming in the evening.
Yes.
Works for me as well.
6 o'clock start, do you think? Does 6 o'clock work for everyone on Thursday the 20th?
Mm-hmm.
Mary, that's cool?
Yes.
Okay. Good for you?
Yes.
All right. All right, let's plan on the 20th. We will do a 6 p.m. start. here in
Are we,
Boardroom.
since we don't know who the candidates are we somewhat dependent upon
Yeah.
their availability?
Yeah, so it's tentative at this point.
Okay.
If they can't make it, we'll have to change the date. And I won't know that until
Right.
we reach out to
But
them.
we'll plan for now.
For now, if we're available, that's a first start.
Okay.
Yep, yep. Tony just asked or mentioned that for that, you are all welcome to attend. So,
Although it's not an open interview, it's interviewed by the board.
Yeah.
With public attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's observation. There will be a more robust process that the community will be involved in for the permanent superintendent search.
Any questions for Sean or any members of the personnel committee?
I'd just like to say thank you, because I know kind of behind the scenes how much effort and time you guys have been putting into it on our behalf, so thank you very much.
It's gone very, very quickly, so thank you for that. Okay, anything else?
No.
Okay, thanks, Sean. All right, we'll move on to item 4.2, follow-up, short-term and long-term process improvements discussion. And Vice Chair Angela Tucker is going to take this.
Yes, I will. So after our last learning session, we sat down and took all of the ideas and thoughts that we had as a group. I sat down with Ashley and Sarah, and we kind of just put these in order of how we felt they were most important, kind of changed a few of the wording around it. Had some feedback, but I wanted to just keep it on your radar that it's out there. If there's anything you want changed or added, or you feel something's more of a high priority, just to let me know. I don't want it just be a list of stuff. I want us to be actively working on it. So the more we talk about it, the more we'll be thinking about it. So feel free to give me your feedback after you've reviewed it.
Could you explain how you decided the buckets? What was the driver?
Well, finance was number one. So that put a lot of the A's in. We wanted to do a lot of the community involvement as part of the A as well. some of the things we put down in the B and the C are things that are currently being worked on, so we didn't feel like they needed to be in that A right now.
And for those that are in the audience, we did, as Angela said, we covered this as a item in our retreat on the 26th, which was an opportunity for us to do sort of a larger brainstorming session on the kinds of things that the board as a whole feel are necessary to get us moving forward. Admittedly, some of these items, we, of course, will need to wait until we either have a new interim superintendent. We also need to wait for Keith Ray to be on, so not everything's going to happen tomorrow, but this is a sort of a to-do list for us and for cabinet moving forward.
Well, Keith's been here for a week already.
Surprised he's not done already.
You might give him another week.
Okay.
Sarah, is this updated based on the email sent you last week?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
And as far as the public accessing this, Sarah,
Yeah.
could you speak to where these can be found?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to, now that you've had a chance, the group hadn't seen it first, so now that the board has seen it, I'd be happy to make it active, live. Sure,
Great.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And that's just on our website under the,
It would be within this agenda, at least at
Okay.
this point,
okay,
but I just work with communications to determine where else it could go.
okay,
But I'll make it active within the agenda, tonight's agenda,
okay.
to start.
Will that be able to capture updates if we send in feedback?
That's what I'm thinking. I'll work with Ashley and we'll find a more permanent location for it.
Mm-hmm.
Working document?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because tonight's would be a snapshot of what you have tonight attached to tonight's agenda. But then if we work with Ashley, we can find a more permanent, active home.
Thank you.
That makes
Sounds
sense.
good.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, Angela?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to item 5.3, attendance area review. This will be our round 3 discussion with our friend Dave Orlowski. So come on up, Dave.
All right, hello.
Okay, again?
So you guys had some homework, right?
Yep.
And it was to kind of look at this one more time. And just to recap, what we talked about last time was we would look at the scenarios that you were presented, select 2 or maybe 3 that would then be used as kind of the baseline scenarios that would work with that task force that we're putting together. So the goal today is pick the number and pick which scenarios would go to that group. And while we're just getting that rolling a little bit, I can also tell you that I have about maybe a third to a half of the task force members presented by the principals already, and meeting with them tomorrow to finish up that process. The task force meetings on August 15th and August 24th will either be in this room or room 201. Just gotta lock in which ones I can reserve. And all the meetings will be from, right now we're planning on 6:30 to 8, will be those meetings. Again, and the task force might choose to make that 6 to 7:30 or something else the second meeting, once we get that rolling, okay? And then the public listening sessions on September 14th and October 23rd, looking at doing those at most likely the junior high west auditorium, okay? Unless you guys want them somewhere else, but that's what we were thinking we would do, okay?
Would you like the names of the board reps right now?
Sure.
Yeah, the 3, I know we were looking for more rather than less, so Angela, Tony, and Matt have all indicated that they are interested in being a part of that. Was it not you?
No.
Well, I know it was Angela. I know it was Tony. Oh, it was Reg, I'm sorry. It was Reg.
I thought you just skipped over.
No, I'm terribly sorry.
Okay.
I've been thinking Matt, it was the Colts. And Reg, Angela, Tony, and Reg.
Just kind of good, yeah.
Yeah, so I am not.
Sorry.
So, you had a chance to look at those, and I think you were gonna come back with any questions or comments, or maybe we were just gonna cut right to it. And I identify which and how many you'd like to bring forward to the task force.
So I'll jump in if that's okay, Dave.
Yep.
I'm gonna start with a question, because it influences my answer to the number and which ones.
Okay.
And I'll just put my cards on the table. I like number 5, but I like number 5 for a very specific reason, and I don't like number 5 for some other reasons. So the question is, are we still in tweak mode? 5 to me was the most geographically balanced, the most logical one, but it had issues with demographic balance. It had issues with capacity. So my question is, there's no 5A. Did you all, when you and Mike were creating 5, is there an opportunity to tweak 5 for a 5A to try to address some of those current deficiencies? And if there is, I'd kind of reserve the right to look at
Sure.
that. If it's, this is the best we can do, great, that influences then how I'm gonna answer the question. So it's really, do we still have the opportunity to tweak? And if the answer is no, that's fine. But I liked 5 because it just played well. It was the most neighborhood oriented, it was the most logically grouped, but it had deficiencies in what it spit out in the data. And that's not acceptable either.
Okay, so I have 2 answers to that. One is, originally our deadline to pick the scenarios was July 24th. So if we could do it today, we would, that would be fine. If we need to wait till the 24th because we want to make adjustments, that's fine. And remember what the goal of this is, all of these are tweakable, using that terminology. This is just our first pass at starting to get feedback. So I'm not, any of these can be kind of the baseline starting point for getting feedback. So the answer is yes, and we can take some of your feedback right now, make adjustments between now and the 24th, and even bring back a modified scenario 5 to look at again.
But what I'm saying is, and again, the other board members need to speak up, I like 5 visually and geographically, but it doesn't generate the kind of balance, and it creates a real capacity issue at both Red Oak and West. So if that's something that can be tweaked between now and then to me it's a very viable candidate. But if doing so is not feasible, or it ends up kind of throwing it back like the other ones where it's kind of a little bit more checkerboard, then we don't gain anything. So I'm kind of asking a somewhat unanswerable question, which is, do we think we can fix 5 enough to take care of a couple issues? If we can, then I'm going to include it in my list. If it's not, then I'm probably going to say no.
I believe that in order to get the balance that we're looking for, that number 5 is not going to be a viable.
That's what I was afraid of.
Yeah.
And I had looked at 5 and was not comfortable with 5 because of some of the discrepancies or
The
disparities.
statistics that you're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, it's not workable as it is, that's my point.
Right.
You have to tweak it, but it's the most neighborhood-oriented, geographically clean of all of them. So the question is, can it be tweaked? And I'm using that word in particular, fixed those issues. And what I'm hearing is that might not really be that simple. And so consequently, then I pull away from 5 and focus on my other.
Yeah, I think what we tried to do is even look at 5 with exactly what you're saying in mind, to see what if.
Right.
What if we could draw it just perfectly by the map? This
that
is
would
what it would
generate-
look like.
Yeah.
And we kind of use that as a starting point as well in other scenarios to see, and then we started doing modifications to that one. So I don't think we can get, it just depends what your tolerance level for how different you want the schools to be. This one makes the schools look quite a bit different.
Dave, can we do something, were you planning on starting at 1 and giving us just a very quick,
I can.
refresher as to, we don't have to go into the huge detail, there's a lot of people here that may not have had the value of jumping right to 5. Can we do a
Sure.
quick recap?
I'll do a very quick recap. And I don't know if anybody started a clock on me, but I am fully committed.
It's
Fully
important to get
committed
this
to my
right, so
half
I
hour.
that we understand it.
Okay, so to everybody, this is the biggest crowd we've had for this topic, so this is good. This is the current attendance areas for our elementaries. And just for some background, that 2019 or 2018-19, we're going to be converting Pearson 6th grade center back to an elementary, which is going to cause us to redraw the attendance areas, okay? So what you see here is the current attendance areas with the majority of the known development that's out there right now. So recently I was made aware that there's a small development of apartments being connected to City Hall. It's in the talking phases. And I think it's a very limited number of apartments that won't yield a ton of students based on our ratios that we've used, but it will yield some. So we could keep doing this forever right now. But right now, these are the most imminent developments that are out there, okay? And each of those is marked with a flag. And within each of those, you'll also see some kind of projection of how many kids we expect that they're gonna yield. So that's current boundaries. The blue is Jackson, and to Reggie's point, you're gonna see what he referred to as a checkerboard. And this is very common in most districts where you don't see perfectly contiguous attendance areas, okay? So Jackson is the light blue, so going all the way out east to here. Sweeney is the brown, Sunpath is the red, Eagle Creek is the green, and Red Oak is the purple, okay? So that's the current lay of the land. For elementary, this is the current lay of the land for our junior highs, with the brown, in this case, being west, and the red being east, okay? Then what we started doing, well, I'm gonna jump a little bit here.
Let's get that estimate.
For each scenario, then, what you're gonna see, this is current, what's our current capacity, what's the capacities of the buildings, and what are they projected to be at down the road? So, right now, this is actually as of April 1st, but this is how many kids were in the school, this is the capacity, this is the percent of capacity they're at, and we're using the term open seats, okay? So you can see a couple of our schools are already over. We have some adjustment due to inter-district transfers, that's the next column. And this column is those developments and where they would be if we weren't opening that school, and then what it would do to the projected enrollment, okay? The next columns are what percent of students are free or reduced price lunch on an IEP or an English language learner, okay? And then the last one's just a sum of those, all right? Am I at the level you want?
Yep.
Now there are 8 scenarios in here, and I'm not gonna take you through all of them like that, but I'm gonna.
Maybe the high point, maybe
Sure.
the major move for each scenario, and also the fact that the colors do not transfer.
They
to
do
each.
now. They
Oh,
do.
they do?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, look at you.
Okay, so here's how you read the scenarios, okay? In each of these screens, and elementary's making the biggest change, okay? So you'll see the current map kind of squished a little, looking a little weird here, but you can see how this then translates into this one, and I'll give you how to read it quickly. So here Jackson, you can see, and here Jackson moved up into this area stayed Jackson, and this changed to some of Pearson. So the big difference you're gonna see, and I'll go through these quickly, is that lightish green color becomes Pearson Elementary, okay? You'll see a little bit of change over here, where this jumped from Eagle Creek to Red Oak. And so I'm gonna blow through them quickly on that one, all right?
Okay.
All right, that's how the junior highs would change. And actually, sorry, one other thing. If you want a quick look, and I'll leave them up for a few seconds, this is really the highlight, I think, what Scott was talking to me about. This is how many kids would move in that scenario. And I have 2 numbers here. One of these is assuming people that currently move intra-district, meaning they're not going to their current boundaried school. If we allowed them to be grandfathered in, that would be this number right here. So 21% of elementary kids would be in a different building, okay? There's a certain number that are gonna be in a different building no matter what. We're moving close to 500 kids to Pearson Elementary. They're moving. So it's really only another 270 kids in this example, okay? And then this talks about the geography. What is happening to Eagle Creek? They're getting a little bit from Sunpath, and they're getting some Red Oak kids along Eagle Creek Boulevard. So this tells you what they're getting. So obviously, if they're getting it, the other one's losing it, okay? Now I'm gonna stop talking and just press the buttons unless there's questions, okay? All right. So here's scenario 1. Actually, that lasted, what, 3 seconds? Okay. This is the junior high scenario 1. This is the feeder pattern. And these are the stats for that, okay? We, after learning about some additional development, redid scenario 1, had a 1A. And I don't know, Scott, how?
Go back, because what it does is it summarizes, the change is the Red Oak area north of Fourth switched to Eagle Creek.
Yes.
That's the real difference between 1 and 1A in this case. That's the same thing with the other A's.
Yeah.
So, again, in this case, 1A,
Right.
this little block up
Right.
here was Red Oak,
Right.
and in the adjustment, it moves to Eagle Creek. Okay?
And Dave, just for those that don't know anything to do with, or don't know anything about this right now, we're trying to feed essentially 3 schools into one, but it's not completely accurate, right?
Correct.
Or is that just okay?
Correct. So if it was perfect, we'd feed 3 elementaries to one of the upcoming middle schools and 3 elementaries into the other. But because they're so close together, it creates some weird situations for walkers. Okay? And the statistics, here's 2. And the statistics, then there's a 2A. And again, now you'll see that Red Oak area, what happens if it switches to Sunpath. And I don't expect anybody to take these in this quick, but you get the idea. That we're playing around with a lot, and we expect that we're gonna have more when we start getting feedback on it, okay? There's scenario 4. And mostly, if I was seeing these for the first time, I'd be taking a quick glance at what happens to, where does Pearson Elementary get its kids? Because that's the biggest changes, because we have to populate an entire school, okay?
The other number that I tend to look at, and it's not but just for the benefit of them, that it's not the end all be all, but I do look at that bottom 16%, because there is an ideal of moving as few kids as necessary to change those. So in this instance, or in scenario 1, it was 21% of the kids that were changing, and in this scenario, there's 16. So there's factors to look at.
Yep.
In deciding.
Yep, right, and so if that's one of your high-level looks, then when you want to dig into more detail, you can look at this one. Okay, and then we did a 4A. And again, that was that Red Oak area north of 4th Sunpath. There's the stats. And here's 5 that we looked at to begin with. Okay, I'm going to just one last piece. So when we start looking at what's the spread, what's the range, what's the biggest versus the smallest when you look at the demographic or other factors, 5.9 from biggest to smallest, 5, and 11.5, okay? All right. Good? For refresher? Okay, where do you want to go now?
Well, your primary goal tonight is for us to provide you 3 recommended options, correct?
2 or 3?
2 or 3.
And again, with the understanding, I know these are, it's very unlikely these will not be where it ends.
Right.
Sure.
But just starting points. Our best guess at a starting point.
Okay, so what we could do, depending on how comfortable people feel, is either continue asking questions, or do we do a straw poll here of interested scenarios?
Well, I think we should, do we have, so like for instance, scenario 5, it would feel that a priority there was keeping neighborhoods as much together as possible, whereas for me, scenario 1 felt very, a priority, felt having the numbers as the percentage of free and reduced lunch, special ed, and EL, the ranges seem to be fairly small. So do we have priorities? Is there a priority that's higher than another? Would there be a reason to start with one scenario that has the smallest ranges, one that keeps them together as a neighborhood? you see what I'm saying? Like, what priorities are we looking for right now?
Well, that's the fun thing, I think priority is in the eyes of the beholder to an extent.
True.
I think you guys did a really good job of trying to capture multiple ways that this could be done. You know, with the exception of 5 that I would have to agree, I don't feel like that's a very workable solution. I think, quite frankly, all of the other ones are in play, and they're gonna remain in play.
No, I disagree. I don't think 3's in play at all.
You don't think 3's in play?
No. Now, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I don't think 3's, even when we did this the last time, we blew through 3, because 3 just,
Now, maybe it's not the highest priority, but it's still, it's not that it's impossible.
well, then something's changed, because as we went through this, even the last time, at a cursory review, it's like, 3's just not workable.
Is that because of that has the highest number of
It was
kids moving?
a big part of it. We also have 2 capacity issues, both Red Oak and the West.
Right.
Now, there's no 3A, because usually it's the A that addressed the capacity issues. Because the 1 and the 2, 1, 2, and 4 all had capacity issues that was addressed
Right.
in the A variant. So, to me, 3's not workable. 1 helps with the, I put it all on a chart because I'm like Dave, I gotta look at the data, and I have to be able to do it without flipping back 12 times pages. 1 has a higher moved percentage, which I wasn't real crazy about.
Right.
So I like 2A and 4A versus 2 and 4. But they're very similar. All 4 does, 4A versus 2A, is it just takes Pearson and makes it vertical. That's all it does. The percentages are still pretty low and balanced.
Yeah.
You're right that 1 is the most balanced, but I don't consider 2A and 4A out of whack.
No, I don't either.
And yet I think they're a little bit better geographically, and they have a lower overall move. So again, that's why I was asking at the beginning. For me, it's 3 of them. It's 5, 2A, and 4A. But only 5, if 5 can be fixed. If 5 can't be fixed, it's just not workable, then it's 2A and 4A.
And one of the things we didn't talk about, at least I don't remember, is when we're looking at the percentage of moves, did we have historical information to suggest what was a high? We couldn't come up with that.
We couldn't.
So we don't know, unfortunately, that 1630, we don't know that that's good, bad, or different. We have nothing to base it on. For all we know, we're in the 40s the last couple times we did this.
You do know that 500 kids are moving. That school is not an elementary right now.
Right.
And 500 of them are going. And back to this 5 point, I think if we started fixing 5 to match the parameters that we discussed, which were just, these were the proposed criteria, or these were the adopted criteria, this is what has historically been used. 5's gonna wind up looking a lot like 4 or 2.
Right.
And I will tell you, I think when you talk about straight, that Pearson area being straight, it just kind of depends where you want to feed Pearson from. If you want to, there's the Walker, which is that half-mile thing. If you want to get Pearson from this block here, or you want to get Pearson from some of over here, I think, which was that what it was in the past?
That's the difference, Dave. Going straight up and down, there's 260 families or 260 students currently going to
Jackson.
Jackson, and that corner there that you're touching, Dave, is about 200 students. That's the difference.
That's the flip-flop.
Yep.
And know that Jackson, I say 500 are going to move. Jackson's the furthest one over capacity, and it's going to get more over capacity. So Jackson is going to be the one that's going to give up the most. So those are things that are going to happen, for sure.
These projected open, this is when you have the new developments at full capacity, so it's not technically
Correct.
projected
last
open.
column.
Correct. That is right.
So
But the intent there is to,
yeah, once it's full, but I mean.
well, no, the intent is to, so we're not having to come back and revisit this
Right.
in a year and a half. So you're right, it's not there yet today, but
This could change due to migration of people in general.
I mean, it's always going to be.
And one of the things we talked, in one of the messages we exchanged talked about putting this on an annual agenda, that we would look at what is out there for development now, what are the current capacities. So so even if it lasts on the short end, on the 3 to 5, that we're keeping this conversation out there so we're never surprising anybody. That it's something we're at least annually discussing.
I can tell you my top 2 are 2A and 4A, with 2A being a preference because it doesn't put an open seat in the negative as far as West goes.
Okay.
so we're at least we're in the positive, but I like that they both have the same amount of moves, and they're pretty aligned as far as free and reduced special ed and EL.
Okay.
Wait, Angela, can you say that again, about east and west, or
Yeah.
west?
Scenario 4A puts west at negative 15.
Oh, I thought you were talking about 2A, sorry.
2A puts it at 1 positive.
What?
I don't see that.
I don't either, Angela.
Open seats, east and west, see where it says 48 and negative 15?
Sorry, I'm going all the way over to projected
Yeah, I'm
open when
doing
the
the same
developments
thing.
are done.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking at the kind of the final.
I'm looking at the
Yeah,
other
sorry, I
numbers.
was not.
Because if you look at the other, they're kind of balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also like 2A, and to the point, it's very similar as 4A. And so to giving the task force some things that are substantially different.
Right.
I feel like we shouldn't give them 2A and 4A because it's essentially one block that's currently going to Jackson or another that's currently going to Jackson. That's the only real tweak, and I don't think that that's giving our study group a meaty enough task. I guess I would go to 1A. I agree with what Reg said about 5 would be great if the numbers and our priorities aligned with the geography. Unfortunately, it doesn't. That's why 5's a non-starter for me. And I don't think it can be tweaked without looking exactly like 4 or 3A, you know. So I guess 1A would be my second choice or my control group to give the study group.
And then you don't care between 2A and 4A, either one?
I like 2A a little bit better just because it's kids who are relatively close to Jackson, going to Jackson, as opposed to busing kids to the southeast to Jackson and taking those kids and busing them. You know, it's everybody's on buses well, they'd still be on buses, but it'd be a short bus ride for some.
Okay, so you're 2A and 4A, you're 1A and 2A, but you want to weigh in this way and I'll just kind of.
Yeah, we can do
But
that.
if you're gonna take a 2A and a 4A off, and only have 1, I pick 2A.
Yeah.
Okay,
Me too.
I'm just writing down what you're.
Well, okay. The difference between 2A and 4A is simply the Pearson vertical versus Pearson separate.
Mhm.
So really, you could have a 2A and a 2B, and then combine, because that's all you're changing. And the whole idea is to give the task force something to look at and to consider, and everything's really on the table for them to get feedback on. So it's just very easy to say 2 or 4, whichever you want to pick,
Yeah.
is just changing one piece, and then 1 is enough different, 1A, I mean. So I think you're right. 1A is substantially different than 2A and 4A, which are so close, but you can tweak one of them to be a 2A and a 2B or a 4A and a 4B, if you follow what I'm saying.
It's
So that way they've got
essentially
two-
3, but
Yeah, it's kind of 1 and 2 to look at,
We can do that.
knowing that they're gonna maybe say something entirely different. Well, what did you think about this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that group will get more down into the nitty gritty of, you know, streets and neighborhoods
Well, it also
and really what makes sense.
It's also gonna allow them to show, to your point, Sean, their weighting, if you will, of overall moves, because 1A is higher overall moves,
Right.
but better balance,
Yep.
versus 2 and 4As that are lower overall moves, but not
Not as
quite as
good.
good a balance. So I think by doing that, the 1A and then the others kind of combined,
Yep.
you're giving a little variance that people can actually digest and
Yep,
consider.
that seems logical to me too.
1A was my favorite. Yeah, I know the moves were happening more, but I like the balance better.
Okay,
I didn't really have a second.
so okay. But what they're proposing, you'd be okay with too?
Yeah,
Given 2A
absolutely.
and 2B is kind of a package
Yeah.
deal,
Oh,
and
yeah.
understanding the difference, and then 1A. Mary?
My favorite was 2A, because it balances everything.
Okay, so in that hybrid kind of, the task force getting 3 scenarios, or you could call it 2.5, whatever you wanted, 2A and 2B kind of combined, almost, just understanding the difference, and 1A, kind of the favorites of everybody would be reflected in there, and they would go to the task force. We have 3 members on there that would be able to speak to that, and even if people wanted to know what the thinking was as well. Good?
So 4A becomes 2B.
Correct.
or not to be.
Wait,
Or not to be.
4A becomes 2B.
What we'll do is take,
Kinda to make it
Oh, right, yeah.
Yep, we'll take 2A and just move that one block and make sure that that's the only difference.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I would agree with it.
I guess the question I have for our dual-purpose Pearson principal sitting next to Scott here. Do you have, as the principal of that building, Reggie's got a great point about on the map, the Pearson block crossing the freeway looks great. Do you have a sense of whether there'd be a difference, and the freeway is a pretty decent obstacle to elementary kids crossing? Is there a difference to you between the straight south of the freeway or a little bit southeast of the soccer complex?
Honestly, I think the way the maps look is not as important as what you guys all decided the priorities. Like Sean mentioned, is demographic balance your number one priority? If you were to all take a list and rate your top 5 reasons, 1 to 5, of which one you choose, you could probably, based on those statistics, decide which of the maps fits. If it's longevity of transportation costs, if it's the least number of moves, if it's a demographic balance, whatever it is, if you name those as your tops, which map comes out without even looking at the boards? It doesn't matter, you're busing the kids regardless if they're across the highway or if they're by Sun Path. So the length of time in the bus is even a factor. For some of those kids who are coming way across town, those factors would be, what are your priorities in those factors rather than what colorful map looks best?
And even to that driving point, Mike and I have started at different points in that potential change areas, and the drive time was within 2 minutes. I mean, it's really, our schools are pretty concentrated right here.
Except Red Oak.
Yeah, which the whole Jackson, Pearson, that piece is not really in the Red Oak mix. Yeah, Red Oak's a little more spread out. And some of that Sweeney area way to the south.
Right.
Yeah. And right now, there's not it's still a drive for those kids, but there's not a ton of kids down there right now. Yeah, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna just sum up the direction one more time, and then we'll maybe call it done, right? Okay, for this one. We're gonna take 2A and 2B and make 2B really 4A, what it was. Just make, it's that one block, which one goes there. And then we're gonna use 1A as well, okay? And then I will come back for a short presentation on the 24th just to show you just those 3 scenarios. And you'll hopefully at that point say, okay, and we'll be ready to go with the task force. And I hope to have the full task force membership in place by then as well, okay?
Good.
Sounds great.
All right. Any other questions for Dave?
Oh, just a thank you. Keep up the great work.
You're welcome.
All right.
And I'd like to say nice job at
Nice job.
All right, let's move on to item 5.4. Ashley's going to come up and talk about our communications subcommittee. This is an item that we, I guess, teased out, you could say, a month or 2 ago. I don't remember where we started, and we're following up on this now.
Several meetings ago, and also most recently at the school board summer retreat. This is basically what you have before you, the plan to revitalize and revamp the communications committee. It would be an advisory committee similar to CFAC. Some of the highlights of my proposal include engaging the community to get feedback and input on current, new, and any proposed initiatives, and trying to figure out new and innovative ways to engage the community. Taking a look at what we're doing, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and what we should be doing. As for the makeup of the committee, this is not set in stone by any means. My proposal is to have 2 school board members, in addition to teachers, staff members, and also community members. Now this part, for the community members, this certainly is not set in stone, but I proposed having people who are marketing, branding, and communications experts, but we certainly could have a little bit of both. People who have the communications background, and then people who don't. That way we have a mix of everything, so we're getting different ideas from different people. The goal would be to meet, I would say approximately 6 times a year, but of course that could change depending on the climate, depending on what's happening, what we need feedback and input regarding. So you can take a look and let me know what you like, what you don't like, and kind of what
So I can tell you that the two board members that showed interest in the communications committee are Mary and Sean Howell. You can go ahead and
Okay.
jot those down.
I wonder if there would be any benefit to having PTO presidents or volunteer coordinators who are more directly in the buildings and working with parents for feedback, maybe? Just a thought.
That's a good idea.
Mine is Sean.
Dual role.
As far as finding people to serve in this committee, do you want us to open it up so people can apply?
Yes.
Fill out an application? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we should do it just like we did.
Just
CFAC.
like CFAC.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not as convinced they all would have to be marketing, branding, communication experts. Maybe one or two of them would be helpful just for the expertise and the knowledge that they bring. But I think there are a lot of people out there that probably have good ideas to help us, gather input, create some community feedback loops and that kind of thing. So I don't necessarily know that they all have to be communication experts.
No, just because you don't have the degree, you shouldn't be kept off of this committee, I don't think. I mean, if you show that much interest in communication in Shakopee in the district, I think we need something more broadly than just having it narrowed as, if you have one of these degrees, or this is what you do for a profession, then you're included.
So for the CFAC, we had the finance committee, which was a larger group that could vet the applicants. What would your recommendation be for the group that would vet these applicants?
We could certainly get a group of people together in the communications department that includes two people, including myself. We could certainly rely on Mary and Sean to help as well, and we have several staff members that can help too. And just take a look at who shows interest and then go from there. I think that will determine who is on the committee, anyone who shows interest.
And you know that I have just tremendous respect for you and Crystal, but this committee has been a passion of mine.
Oh, yes, yes.
You've heard.
You know that.
Really? Shocker. Because I think it's so important to engage our community, so I'm really excited about this.
I'm excited too.
So what additional direction do you need from us?
I think that is pretty much it. From here, I'll just post the application online, communicate the information out so that people know that the process is open, the application, so that they can go ahead and submit information if they're interested. And then from there, we'll get a group together, select the committee, and then start holding meetings.
Sounds great.
How soon do you think you want to finish, or the committee up and running?
Maybe around 3 weeks. We should be able to select the committee and start meeting. As long as those applications come in. Yes.
Sounds good.
I think between, just a little voice of reason here, having done this with the CFAC process, you gotta create the application, you gotta post it, you gotta collect it, you gotta review, you gotta select, then you gotta have a date. I think that might be a bit aggressive to do this. I was actually sitting here thinking, as long as this is up and running before the school year,
Okay.
considering we're in the middle of July and effectively we've got 6 weeks until school starts, I think that's more than reasonable.
We could definitely have everything together.
I would
before school
expect that. I think
starts.
3 weeks just sounds like you're gonna be moving mountains to do that.
She's pretty good though.
Knock yourself out and you can do it. That just seems awfully fast.
Okay, I'll set that as the deadline.
Well, I guess to that point, I'm wondering, it is summer, is everybody paying attention to
That's true,
school
too.
stuff right now? Would we be better off having that window be during the back-to-school window? When kids
People are paying attention.
Okay. Good point.
All right, anything else for Ashley?
Thank you,
Thank
Ashley.
you,
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay, let's move on to item 6, old business action items, and we will welcome up Suzanne Johnson. A number of different items for us. So the 6.1, 2017-2018 budget update.
Okay.
Just go ahead and start off with
All right, I'm gonna give a brief budget update, but I just want everybody to keep in mind that this data is as of June 29th. So when we're closing the year, there is still a whole lot of activity that occurs between then and now. So we'll have, revenues that we are still booking receivables for in July and August as we have more information available to get the right numbers there. So, Right now, as we stand, revenue looks like it's low, but there are a lot of year-end entries that affect that, and those aren't something that we can just look on the 30th and know that they're good. So, state funding is coming in at 90%, but the state currently holds back 10, so it's absolutely reasonable that the 90% that we'll book that last 10% as receivable when we get the next state report. So that money will come to us. It will just come to us in July or August, so then we book a receivable for it, and then when it comes, the revenue actually gets booked in 16, 17, even though it comes in 17, 18. Federal, we do a pretty big draw at the end, so I mean, often we'll draw a couple times during the year, but you wanna do it and do it right, so our federal revenues are gonna equal expense, so at the end of the day, if expenses come in low, the revenue might come in low, but they're gonna offset each other, so that number seems low, but I do know that there are some pretty big chunks of money that we're waiting for. So again, just waiting for everybody to finalize, and nobody can submit their final federal information until all of our books are closed. So that's a number that we'll just keep an eye on. Taxes coming in at 93%. I'm expecting those, we'll have a few year-end entries and hope that that comes close. The local fees has the land sale in it, and we did not close on the land by June 30. So that number is going to affect our fund balance, but then when the land sale occurs in 18, then that will kind of correct itself just as a timing matter. So that 443, the 300,000 will not happen in that budget remaining. And then expenses are coming in at 99.2%. And I guess we have a few little things that are expected to come through, but we have a bulk of the things in. So I mean, that number's good. We have most of our payroll in. The only thing left is just wage accruals and things for hourly people. So otherwise, it's just a matter of letting the final invoices flow through and seeing where we land. So we talked about this at the kind of improvement and process session. If the timing of presenting this the second Monday of every month is good information for you. So I think we just continue to explore if we want to present this at a learning session when the information is a little more finalized. Like we can't get our credit card transactions in right now because the statement's not even finalized in COVID. So things are looking good. I expect us to come in at where we've planned to, other than the $300,000 land sale. So now it's just keeping an eye on it as we finalize our close process.
And the land sale, the fact that it didn't happen, we've had the communication that it's on track. It's a paperwork issue really more than anything else. And that will be a push into next year. So what we projected would be a little more of an impact this year, but it would be beneficial impact next year. So it's a wash.
Yep, absolutely.
And just one thing on the land sale, I've gotten this question a lot. We're gonna talk about it later, the south site. Some people thought that the land sale was that we were selling the south site. That is not true.
No.
It is the Marystown Road frontage next to Jackson.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Suzanne on the 17?
So we probably, do you think in August, or is even that, because of some things that have to process, will we, do you think we'll
August,
have?
our revenue will be better. It's a matter of that, the federal
Yeah.
and how long that part takes to flow
Which
through, but
is
even that's.
normal, that's
Right.
just the way it happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, so maybe by the August business meeting, we'll have kind of final numbers.
And I would think that by August, for sure, state and property taxes are gonna be good.
Okay.
It seems to me that it makes sense to have these updates, since it's not necessarily always something that we're having to take action on, to move them to learning sessions,
That's what I would say. There's no action needed on.
updates for us, and if it's more accurate information toward the end of the month than it is the beginning of the month.
And then if we had to take action, we could bring it to the next meeting. So that would be my.
Well, if we're being creative, we could always flip the meetings. The first meeting of the month could be
I
learning
know, I
sessions,
was
the
gonna
second
suggest
is
that, but I didn't wanna get
Well,
too
I didn't know how set in stone
Yeah.
that is,
Yeah.
but we couldn't
Whatever
change
we
that
want.
until next year. We could change for the remainder of this year, we could change when she updates us.
And we
I
can,
was gonna-
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was gonna make a list of what our priorities for each meeting, and then check with each department head to see which one they would prefer.
Because that's on our list.
Yes.
That's on our
Yes,
page.
so
That's on
I'm-
our list.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on that.
The
Okay.
cabinet-
It's on my list.
It's on, kind of on my
On
list
ours.
too, that our list, the cabinet has asked, the directors have asked for kind of an annual cycle. This is something that
Yep.
I've had in the past, that in January, these are the topics, in February, these are the topics. It is something I've had in the past, and I'll work with the directors and all of you to get that in a place where you can see it, and it's an active working document too.
That way we'll not miss as many things that we've been missing to talk about.
Right, I think that's great.
Well, it also allows for more preparation by the cabinet,
Right.
as well as ourselves, to get materials in advance to be thoughtful.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of just looking at the timing of those things.
Well, I think we can all agree why we've been putting them out here, at the frequency we have, but it's time, if this is mature enough where we need to move it, I would totally support that. We would be publishing it no matter what, even if it's part of a relearning session, because we're gonna get these documents out there, so.
Yep.
And that was gonna be my point, is that we could still publish it even if it was in a learning session, we wouldn't make it fully transparent. to the public.
Yep.
This is posted in active right now too, so.
All right. Anything else on this item?
There is one action item to approve the contract with school management, so Todd's
yes.
got that. I don't know how that process works, so.
Well, you wanna give us an idea of what, the action item is to approve, one additional contract for a year.
Yes.
You're expecting to go a year at the rate of $6,250 per month. Could you explain to us what are we getting for that?
Yes. So right now, that is more of a consulting service like Todd has been doing with us up to this point. So for us in the transition, for me to take all of the models that he has and begin to put those into play. So even now in July, we're building our entire costing model, making sure we have all the right people in. We'll be using that to help us at the beginning of the year to make sure payroll and distributions and things like that are more accurate. So the model really allows you to use it for multiple purposes. So we can actually at any point within like 60-day cancellation, cancel with Todd. So my gut instinct is to say, if we have that right, let's get through the next 6 months and really get the models functioning well, and then we can take it from there. I mean, I don't envision needing him the entire year, and he did say that we could cancel with 60 days. It's just a matter of what we feel is valuable. So right now, I think we're getting a lot of bang for our buck because we're able to actually get these models where they should be and be able to utilize them in the future, because at CFAC tomorrow, we'll be presenting, had we been using these models, what that would have done for us last year.
So at the point that you feel comfortable, you can put in that 60-day notice, and we're not.
Yeah, and I mean, even at the beginning, I said, I don't wanna sign this if we're locked into this, because I think it's gonna be pretty quick learning once we can get it all. And it is built pretty well. He just said, I kinda went through and plopped numbers in, but let's build it and link it all to the state reports and have everything functioning really well, so.
So do you have a line item in 17-18 for this in the budget?
We better, yeah. Yes, we do. Yep, that's in the budget.
And you need an action on that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Are we gonna move for just the monthly and try to cap at 6 months, or leave that open?
I said leave it open and we can cancel with 60 days notice. So
Is that written into the contract that we can cancel within 16?
I can double check.
Days?
But I
Because
know
if it's
that he
not-
said, he's pretty much said that he is not dying for our business. I mean, I think he kind of dropped things to fit Shakopee into his schedule, but he has a full plate. So if we cancel tomorrow, he would not be at a loss for our business.
So can you amend the motion to allow for the 60-day cancellation?
Or would that have to be in the contract?
Yeah, you can't, it has to either be stipulated in the contract or some sort of documentation of that, just us saying it doesn't.
Is that, so
Right,
that
but I'm saying,
contract
can
is
we-
linked. You want to just take a look?
Take a look at it?
I have just the cover page.
Why don't we just move it contingent upon that, we
I
can
don't
revisit it.
have.
That's kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
I would amend the motion to be contingent upon that being in the contract,
Yeah.
60-day cancellation.
You good with that?
I'm good with that.
And even if it's not, we get a codicil from Todd that simply says that he does it acceptable.
We got a motion, we have a second?
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah.
Discussion? More discussion? I just want to say that if this tool has served us very well to this point, and we are becoming stronger in understanding our books better, then this is absolutely the investment that we need at this time, so I fully support this.
And seeing other models, I mean, I would say it is a great model. I mean, the way that it is so interactive, and the different reports you can pull, it's built very well, and it would take us a lot of time to find reports, build reports, make them work. I mean, this, you feed the information in and it spits it out in many different formats to allow you to review by the different coding types.
And it even gives you alerts if things are
Yep. I mean, it's
not
very
aligning the
good.
way they're supposed to. Yeah.
And then we've paid for the licensing, so then we will have these into the future regardless, whether he's helping us or not. It's our license.
But I think this is indicative of why Todd has been in such high,
Yeah.
is and has been in such high demand in the school, business, finance community.
And I would
Very,
say
very
it is
well.
very difficult for any director to do what we do without a good model. So everywhere that everyone I've spoken to has a similar model for forecasting and staffing that they use and that they do here the licensing for. And most people do have a Todd as well, but I think we just have to feel out what our needs are, and if the tools are working with the staff we have, then we use them, and if they're not, then we reassess.
Fair enough. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Move on to 6.2 then, board approved referendum authority.
All right, so it has been brought to my attention that we have $183 of referendum authority that we currently have that's going to fall off, and, we won't have that authority anymore. And then in the subsequent year, there's $116 that's gonna fall off. And so it's my proposal that we approve a board-approved resolution, which we're allowed to do, of the $300, so an equal amount, because those are falling off so that we're still whole.
So this is currently in the levy.
It's currently there, and it's money that we obviously need to operate, and so I think that it's necessary for us to just do these both at once so that it's taken care of and they're both on the same cycle, and we don't have this, now next year, let's remember to do the other piece. So it's something that we already have, and it's just making sure
This
that
is
we have that.
just a
for the next 5
renewal,
years.
is not net new anything, correct?
So there's no tax impact.
Right, absolutely not.
It's an administrative task that we're doing and we're combining
Yep.
the two.
And these are right in the
I don't know why we
levy.
didn't have it combined before. I'm a little surprised that they're off sequence, but
I know.
that's a unknown
I
question.
think it has something to do with, yeah, I'm not positive why they got off in years.
And this actually, we need action on this, right?
Yeah, roll call.
And roll call.
Roll
What do we
call.
make a motion for?
Let's,
Yep,
I'd like to
need that.
entertain a motion
I'll
to.
move. I'll move that.
Second.
And what's our actual motion? Let's get this out, let me use the language up there.
To approve the converted referendum authority and combine them under section 126C17. Something like that.
How about authorize a single new board-approved referendum authority of 300 per just as people need?
And I'll draft
That
all
works
of the
good.
resolution language in, so.
Okay. So who moved that, Rich?
Yep.
Second? Matt? Other discussion? Roll call vote then.
Bowerman?
Yes.
Pallet?
Yes.
McKeon?
Yes.
Haas?
Yes.
Romansky?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
And Swanson?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. That's it for you for the moment,
now.
right? Okay, thank you. All right, move on to item 6.3, and Tony Pass, our policy chair, is going to give us a quick update. This is officially what, the second reading?
Yes, the second reading, these were read it last month. It's essentially, we've been following this policy, it's just hasn't been documented in our report. And it comes down to if we get audited, and I said, Julie, can you give me a little more input, or give everyone a little more input on?
Yep, the policy was, we had our special education fiscal monitoring.
Please.
Sorry, I'm screaming.
You're fine.
Okay.
And it was a policy that we were to have had in place, prior to 2016, we just hadn't gotten to that approval yet. It's the board approved, or the NFPA, same policy that they have, we just now have adopted it as ours. What MDE asked us was, why do you not have this policy, can you please get it in place? So we adopted that one, it's in, it was one of our corrective action plans in order to fulfill our requirements for fiscal monitoring. So once it's approved and it's in there, then we've approved that plan and we've met that requirement. It goes for all federal funds, so it goes for our title funds and everything as well. So if and when we're ever audited for the rest of our federal programs, it will already be in there. And they won't be cited as we were.
We haven't been audited yet in
No.
Title I, 2, and 3, so you're saving us some time. So
Yeah.
that'll be coming soon.
And these are all procedures we've always done.
Yeah, we just didn't have it, we didn't have that policy
anything.
in our,
Right.
in our book yet.
And you can see it originated, it was late
Yep.
2016, and at that point, we were in another
Chapter.
series.
Chapter,
Yeah,
yeah.
another series at
Yeah.
that point. So MSBA put it out early 2017, so.
We're just catching up.
Well, and there were also changes to that
Yeah.
guidance, so I mean, it used to be slightly different and they rewrote it. So
And we
it
have
used
to
to be
be-
all under a compliance supplement and now they've rewritten, literally, there's a whole booklet and this incorporates all of those changes.
We happen to be in a cycle where we were fiscally monitored on, what we were doing in our policies were fine for as when we were monitored. They were moving into new things such as this. So although, had we been monitored on the old rules, we wouldn't have been cited, we were because we didn't have it on the new ones, so. It's now there.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Any questions for Julie or Tony? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve policy 721, uniform grant guidance regarding Federal Reserve sources for, I'll leave it there.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second.
Angela and Matt, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Let's move on to 6.4. Chris, come on up. again. And this is where we're going to be discussing as well the consent item change orders that we pulled off. You want to start?
I think we'll start from the top with the south side and then we'll progress into the high school building. That's probably got the most agenda items. Before you is a recommendation letter to approve the bids we received for the south side project. Again, we received 5 bids. The low bid was well under the budget of $2,500,000. We're recommending award to SM Henches and Sons. Any questions?
Chris, I'll ask one that I know the answer to, but I want to ask it anyway. So when we did the high school bid, we had that little hiccup in terms of the, and I can't remember what to call it, the bond they had or something that they misplaced or didn't submit on time. We don't have that issue.
We do not have that issue.
Okay.
All 5 contractors submitted responsible bids.
So we're not gonna have any question about
We
that.
don't have to deal with that issue this time.
And we are on the agenda for tomorrow night?
Tomorrow morning,
Tomorrow
9
morning.
AM at the county commissioners for approval, which essentially ends up being our grading permit.
Okay.
So for everything on the site, not including the highway.
And this is the item that we pulled about a month ago or so? In light of waiting for the rest of these permits?
And again, the reason for that was to minimize the district's risk in not having a permit fully executed yet from the county and dealing with a delay claim from the contractor thereafter, so.
And how soon will,
Moving there.
Start?
yeah.
Contracts will go out tomorrow morning. Actually, I'll be hand delivering that Henches.
Okay.
And then we have to have a pre-construction meeting with the county, either late this week, early next week, and after that, they're free to go.
And that's when the cell site will start.
That's when the south side will start.
Okay.
And again, it's a 2-phase project, so there's the site proper, and then there's the work along 79. 79's work will happen next summer. So all the turn lane improvements and ditch work, that'll be all next summer.
Just so that people understand maybe the delay a little bit, could you give us like your best minute on what are the additional things that we have had to adjust?
The biggest thing was, because you have to deal with all stormwater on site, we had to build a pond essentially. It's no different than any of your other schools actually. I believe most of them have them other than the older schools. The high school having the biggest, but a new regulation has come into effect since and due to the elevation change of this site, we essentially created a dam, what they classify as a dam by the DNR. And what they're trying to avoid is what happened at the Wisconsin Dells when they had all that rain. And basically the development, the lake that was higher than the river, that broke and ended up flooding the river. They're basically, in this case, we're trying to avoid flooding the roadway if this were to break. They're building a berm to the pond. So the pond's been broken into two now, which alleviates that issue, which was the final item we were working through with the county to get approval.
And there has been some confusion out there in the community that 78, 79 was either was not going to happen, or that we were gonna sell the land. And I just want everybody to understand that it is moving forward and starting very soon.
And it's still consistent with our overall timeline for ultimate usability.
Correct.
Mary?
What was the estimated cost for this project?
$2.5 million.
So, wait,
Really, really.
Just below that.
Yep.
yeah.
All right, any other questions for Chris? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve and award the contract to SM Hinchins and Sons.
I'll move that to a while coming.
Is that?
So I'll move that. It's been a
All right.
while coming.
I'll second.
Moved by Red, second by
Anyone?
Sean. Any other discussion?
Yes,
No?
we're good.
Good, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that. Now, let's
Sure.
move into,
So construction updates, we'll move into the slideshow you've become accustomed to. There's been a little bit more progress since the last time you've probably seen
Let's
that.
publicly recognize, is A the one who does this?
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
publicly recognize
Yeah.
A. These are really cool pictures for the benefit of everybody out there, and anybody who looks at it online. It's really a good way to see what was projected and where we're at. So, we always thank them in the box, but let's thank them publicly.
Pass it along.
Yeah, he does a great job.
So again, the renderings on the bottom, and this is where we're at with the classroom tower.
When were
The
these
new
pictures
classroom
taken?
tower, just today.
Wow, okay.
He's on top of it. As you can see in the background there, the hallway near the gym, most of that curtain wall's up, and actually a lot of the metal panels starting to go up as well. This is another look at that same tower, so they're almost done with the curtain wall here, really with just the stair left, and they're starting on finishings now in the classroom.
what's a curtain
I was
wall?
just gonna ask that.
Sorry,
What's a curtain wall?
windows.
Windows.
Windows to the layperson, but
Why do you say
longer
more
windows are
words?
for a curtain wall, because they're literally.
They can charge more for a curtain wall.
So the windows. Okay.
Curtain wall sounds nice.
Okay, curtain wall.
This is a view down the resource area of one of the floors on the classroom wing. So things are coming together. We got ceiling grid in. Most of the walls have been painted. They will be tiling next. And the ceiling tile will be the last thing that goes in after carpet. This is a view of the athletic entrance,
Why does the ceiling go in after the carpet?
because there's usually a lot of controls work and mechanical work that's still being worked on as they try to balance the air systems. So it's just easier not to install ceiling and pop them back out.
Okay. Huh? Yeah. Okay.
So this is the athletic entrance. This is a view at that junction at the end of this.
Yeah.
So you have the concessions on the left there, the Saver store, and then that balcony that overlooks that area.
That curtain wall's cool.
And this is a view from that balcony looking down to that area. This is inside the doors of that athletic entrance looking down, so they've actually started putting ceiling tiles in this hallway.
All right, so I have a question here.
Yeah.
I saw that. Those are the outside panels. They're on the inside. I don't remember why that happened, or if I even knew that was happening.
Well, the box that is the competition gym is also precast wall panels. It's just that a few of them were chosen by the architect to just be exposed, to bring some of that outside inside.
Oh, okay.
It's really the only reason.
All right, aesthetics.
Yeah, because there's wall in front of the other ones.
I can.
outside looking at the weight room and then that same entrance. You can see the parking lot's been paved on the side with the first lift of asphalt.
Oh, yeah.
Things are really starting to take shape from the west around.
Wow.
This is a view inside the weight room. This is a view inside the field house. A little bit of glare from the windows, but it's kind of their main storage space right now as they work around the track. And the track is complete. They're starting to work on ductwork piping above, but again, it's kind of a staging area as they finish the other areas. This area won't be complete until January of 18. Maybe sooner, but the date is January 18.
The classroom wing, however, will be open this fall, as will the competition gym.
This is a view from that track area again. And this is your old competition gym, which is now your commons expansion that we're working on.
Wow.
So on the right, in the lower picture is where your learning stairs will be. Upper rendering, and then the balcony. That's all been poured on top. They'll be working on railing here in the next coming weeks and framing up the classrooms below. Another view of that. And this is the front entry, or what was the front entry. So you can see in the back in the top picture, that's where the entrance doors were. And all the precast for the theater is all up now. They're working on the block work for the studio stage, and then working around the classrooms around the perimeter there. And then just off to the left is one of the two classroom wing additions that's underway as well.
That very front part, sorry, that's the studio stage, not the thrust stage.
Correct. That's actually behind that.
Right.
So where it says Shakopee in the rendering,
Yep.
that's the box up on top you can see in the background.
Yep.
So that's the 350
The thrust
seats,
stage.
thrust stage.
Okay.
Is that it? I mean, not that's it.
That's it for
Good.
that.
Good. Okay.
On time, on budget,
On time and
it's
on
always a
budget.
reinforcement.
Yeah. Moving to change orders?
Has the weather been, are we,
Couldn't be any better.
that's fantastic. I know.
Yeah, way to jinx us.
Yeah,
Okay, is there any particular order we want to take these in?
Well, it's up to you.
Some,
Or
I would
questions you may have.
probably recommend that we ultimately, do we need to approve these separately, or can we take them all together?
My preference is separately, but I'll do whatever you wanna do.
Well, let's talk through these and see if it merits piecing them out. If it does, great. If not, we'll just move them all together. So, I think for the sake of the folks that are not intimately familiar with everything that goes into these, can we just maybe lift a couple high points on each individual change order and talk about why the dollar figure is there and what makes it up or what doesn't make it up? Because some of these are details, which is important too.
Yep. So the first one I think on your list is change order number 7 from the Vaughn Field project. Again, that project's in the warranty phase. That will continue through September of this year. That's true of all the projects you do if they carry a 1-year construction warranty. So anything we find that's not working the way it is, or grass seed isn't coming in, we have the contractor correct. We have that time to correct those issues. So these are issues that, one, we have a contractor that isn't very good at paperwork, so he's behind. We are getting close to the end of all the change orders. These were a lot of things that were done actually last summer and agreed on prices. Again, once a cost has been submitted, we don't take that as face value. ICS and your architect will review those very diligently, and we oftentimes send those back to the contractor to give another chance to either, one, explain what the cost is, or two, rework it because we don't think it's in line with the work.
Right.
Yeah.
So change order 7, 28 individual line items result in a $13,600.
Sorry, change order 7 for Vaughn Field. That's,
Oh,
we're
on the
referring
other
to 7
side.
high
Yeah.
On
school.
the other side.
So.
Got too many change orders here.
So that one, we had a little bit of work in working with Shakopee Public Utilities. We had to modify some water based on some unforeseen conditions we found below grade. And then we did a little bit of additional fencing around the track, replaced some of the existing that wasn't in very good condition. And then the last one was to
to bring another contractor in to complete the sod work up top because the other contractor wasn't performing. So, we believe one last change order coming, and again, it'll be similar things to what you see on the last item. This stuff we've moved in and taken care of and deducted out of their contracts.
Okay, any questions on bond 7? All right.
So the next 4 or 5 are the high school. Again, some of these, you'll notice the dates go all the way back to last year. We had a contractor, again, who just let these pile up, didn't sign. You don't get these until when the architect signs them first, contractor signs them second, and then they make their way to the district. As Scott may have mentioned, the BOC committee reviews these before they even go into a change order. We review a draft to make sure everyone's in agreement, and then we send them out. So the big one, I guess, on change order 3 for the high school is the privacy improvements to the main locker rooms that we discussed way back when. So this just implements that change. The others are some minor coordination items.
And so for the benefit of everyone else, it's in essence a self-contained shower and changing room station, whatever you want to call it, for each of the showers. And we felt that that was important for the privacy of the students, and we thought that that would be more advantageous. We've talked to a lot of people about it and felt that was the right thing to do. So it was an ad. And you recall we talked about this a year ago, and as you said, it's taken a while to get here, so this is not new news. But it's something we felt was important, and we collectively approved that some time ago in terms of moving ahead.
And those exist only in the new boys and girls locker room edition.
Right, they're not modifying the current.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not retrofit.
All right, any questions on high school change order number 3? Okay.
Number 5 results in a deduct of $29,000. Some of the items that we may have discussed in the past are commonly referred to as value engineering or VE items. As we've gone through the project, we've looked for opportunities to save the district money. Some of those are contractor ideas that don't sacrifice quality, but they may have a better way of doing something. So we've entertained those. The one big one on here that resulted in a credit on this one was the revision of the fire sprinklers in the auxiliary gym. They needed to be replaced anyway, but he came up with a better way to do those. So they're consistent with the systems you have throughout the district.
I'm going to take it on behalf of Bach, jump in here again. You see VE, and I want to make sure people understand it, value engineering. You guys are constantly looking for ways that even though the bid goes out, we say this is what we're going to do. Well, we learned something. We can do this better. We can do this less expensive. Or in some cases, we add to the showers. So that happens as the normal course of business. But you guys, on our behalf, are constantly looking for these ways to improve things, and it results in deductions from time to time. We are for improvements. So
And
we appreciate that.
even though it's a deduction, we have to act on it.
Yep. You're modifying the
Change
Because
orders.
we're modifying the contract.
Normal business.
Any other comments on change order 5 for the high school?
I'd like the deduct one.
We do.
So do I.
Okay.
Change order number 6, again, some coordination items. We do have some value engineering items on that as well. That one resulted in just shy of a $22,000 add.
Questions on number 6? All right. Now number 7.
Wait, sorry, I do have, where it says delete beam smoke detectors.
Yes.
I'm assuming that is replaced with something
Correct.
equally safe.
Yep. We often have the inspectors on site, and actually with a project of this size, the state building inspectors on site daily, if not one of his staff. And then as well as your local fire marshal, Tom Schneider, is on site at least weekly.
Okay.
And reviewing certain conditions, again, we find areas where we can improve or do things differently. That's one of those.
Okay.
That he suggested you could do this by doing this and still conform to the code.
Okay.
Change order 7, again, this is a lot of value engineering items that we put against some coordination items for a total add of just under $14,000. So So some major ones on here were, there were some modifications to the fields to the south of the high school. Some of the electrical conduit, we found a better way to do that and still get the same performance. And then some revisions to lighting as well. We're just a few highlights off of this one. There were credits.
Questions on 7?
I do have a question. I noticed the food service equipment plan modification. Did that come out of the study that we did, or is this a different?
It was in combination with that. We are constantly reviewing things as they're going in with staff, and we got the shop drawings for this. Shop drawings being the drawings we checked before they actually order the materials. We met with Deb, and she recommended that we could use some other models. We investigated that, and that resulted in $60,000 in savings.
Good to know.
Change order number 8. This is the one I think I had mentioned a little bit earlier about minimizing the district's risk when it came to delay claim due to the state of Minnesota plumbing department not getting us the plumbing department when we had planned on when we had issued the project. We were delayed by, or the contractor felt they were delayed by 60 days, which basically amounted to more heat and cover costs. As we entered the colder months, they would have had the below ground work done, and as a result, they had to buy a little bit more of that. I should note that this claim originally was almost $200,000, and ICS, with Wold's help, were able to make rulings on the claim as to what we thought was valid and what they could provide backup for, and they were at some fault as well. So we actually got that down to less than 50% of the original claim. This is now, because this is in a change order to be a process, this is now a dead issue, it won't resurface. They've come to agreement and we're all moving forward on the issues.
This is a perfect example, so the BOC knows this, but this issue came up a while ago. It's a legitimate concern on their part because they were delayed, they had additional expenses, but when they threw out a number, it was $1.96 or something like that, and we all kind of were taken back, and so they appropriately pushed back, asked for documentation, and that's how it ended up being down to 67 because they couldn't support that. So this is a great example of you guys doing your job on our behalf because it is a legitimate issue, but the claim was just excessive.
Any other comments or questions on 8? So, Sarah, just sort of a technicality. Mr. Berlager's name is still on all of these. Clearly, he will not be signing them. I presume we will scratch that and include
We've already made that change.
You have?
Yeah, these were just, came through while he was still.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or concerns regarding the change orders? If not, I would like to entertain a motion to approve these as one group.
Oh,
That's fine.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I can accommodate however
We
you'd
would
like
have
to
done that
take
under
it.
consent anyways.
okay.
It's
So-
just fine.
Back.
We'll
Okay.
It's just fine.
I'll move that on behalf of BOC.
Okay,
Second.
second by Tony. Any further discussion?
I want to thank Chris, not only for the update, but also kind of walking through this. Normally, we do these in consent, these are pretty standard things, but I think the volume was a good reason to go through them tonight, so thank you for that.
And I actually appreciate it not being on BOC, being able to hear the narrative behind why some of these happen, so I appreciate it.
And one thing I didn't note, with the approval of these, you're still under percent in change orders on the entire project, which frankly is unheard of on a project this complex.
Can you say that again?
Can you say it louder?
1%.
Under 1% in change orders.
Changes, which on a project, on new construction, you typically would expect 3 to 5. Because this has some very messy information, I'd say we're more in the 5 to 7 range, so we're doing very well on protecting the contingency. We're doing very well on the overall budget.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All same sign. The change orders are approved. Anything else for you?
Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank
Sir,
you.
see you on Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
I got one more item on the agenda.
Yes. Okay,
Oh,
let's
that's right.
move on to item 7, new business discussion items. Kane Smith, come on down. little radon testing.
Good.
I did not print your 84 page.
I did not print them for you either. I figured that probably won't
Same
be very feasible. Yeah, we completed our annual 5-year radon testing. IEA did the testing for us in 11 of our buildings throughout the district. The testing was conducted for 138 days, started in November of 2016, ended in March of 2017. There were 317 devices that were collected for data. We got 18 areas that we are going to be retesting this winter with a more detailed testing device, just to give us more data on the areas that were tested. Other than that, really, to report. You guys got any questions?
I noticed when I did look at the 84 pager, there were a number of devices that seemed to have gone AWOL.
Yes.
Any idea where they went? What do they look like? I mean, did somebody think it was a rat trap or something?
Yeah, they're like little black squares. They look like a little ant trap.
And they disappeared.
Yeah, there was.
I think there were some teachers that didn't get the email or didn't read the email and figured it was just something and they tossed them. So, yeah, there were a few that
Were they tossed after the testing or during? Or?
They were tossed during, so we did not get the information on it.
56 of them, I think.
And that's part of the retesting of the 18 areas?
No,
No.
the 18 areas were.
18 are the ones that tested above 4 microcuries per liter.
And remediation, correct me if I'm wrong, and I only know this because I had this in the house one time I was trying to sell, is typically ventilation circulation.
Correct.
So
HVAC is a huge part.
right, so we would be, again, I didn't read the 84 pages either, but I'm assuming we retest, we find out there really may be an issue here, then we look at remediation. And remediation may simply be ventilation, circulation, something of that nature, not, okay, we gotta tear this building down.
No,
It's nothing.
no, it's more times than not, it's just adjusting the schedule for an air handler or, making sure more fresh air comes.
So why test during a time when there aren't any people in the building?
It's just it's just the time frame it fell in. So that's why we gotta do the more thorough testing, is to find out when the levels reached the level they did. My assumption would be the levels that went over were tested during winter break, when the HVAC systems are all shut down, for a period of week. So we're basically getting no fresh air for a week.
Well, and they did specify in there that was the worst possible case scenario. That they're testing in an area where there's no air circulation, so you got what you probably would have expected to get to a degree.
Yeah, I was very pleased with the results.
Well, I was gonna ask that, Kate,
Yeah.
I don't know how to gauge out of 317 if, I can't do the math quick enough, 5%, roughly, oh, more than that?
I thought they were very good.
Yeah, I think this number's decent. Now, it seemed to be a little bit concentrated in Eagle Creek.
Yes.
Yes.
Which may be good, may be bad, in the sense that if you fix it, you've taken care of most of it.
That would tell me it's probably an air handler that wasn't scheduled properly, something wasn't functioning.
You don't need action from us, this is just an
Nope,
update?
just to inform.
All right.
Okay, nothing to be worried about, right?
Well, I think we should, I would expect that you would come back to us after the
Correct, yeah.
retest and say, okay, here's what we found, and thus we don't need to do something, or we do need to do something.
Yeah, retesting has been ordered. They're already on the schedule for next winter. Yes,
So we'll look at it.
we'll be back to inform you what the results were for that.
Will they do it literally during the exact same time frame so that it's
Yes.
apples to apples
Yes.
comparisons?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would expect them to do it in November. It's not gonna be a long test like the first one was, because it's more detailed. It gives us an hour by hour picture of what the levels are.
Okay.
I think it's a couple days for the second test.
All right,
All right.
questions for Kane? All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken.
Okay, item 8, new business action items. Suzanne, come on up. We're gonna start with activity and parking fee rates for 2017-18.
You got it.
More than not make it work, but that's the little pressure.
I'll tee this up while you're teeing that up, just to use a wiggy term. So the board had this conversation in our retreat, I believe it was January 16th was the date. We actually looked at.
Yep, 16.
16th. We looked at our current fees, activity fees, as well as parking, and compared ourselves against our metro average. And this was something that has not been reviewed for a long time. This was a necessary time to examine due to the current conditions on the ground. It was time to take a look at some things that we had not taken a look at in a while. And this was one of the items that was on the docket to look at.
So all of the school districts, I believe in the state, mostly the metro area, but share their activity information. So John Jenke gets a summary of every district and a column for everybody. So the metro average here are all metro schools. I did also run just kind of our comparables of districts similar to our number of students, and the numbers are very similar, not any huge change from running those two sets of numbers. So as you can see, all the averages are right in the 200 range, some a little bit more or less, but we're still sitting at 120. So definitely think it's necessary to do some increase and maybe look at it again next year just to make sure that we shouldn't be doing another layer of it. So you can see I have in the recommended fees, I have pretty much all of them going up by $30, except a couple of the sports that were identified as having a higher amount or a higher cost, average cost, that we upped a little bit on a few of the other sports. So I am proposing that we get that into place so that our activities department can get the registration software up to date and people can get registering. I did ask John Jenke when he thought we approved these last, and he thought that it's been probably at least 2011, 2012.
I was trying to, I was thinking, I think Sarah might remember, because I have a vague recollection of doing it, and it was a long time ago. So the fact that it's 5 or 6 years doesn't surprise me.
Well, and if you look at the averages, we're still really low. I mean, I'm not saying that we should go crazy and, get up to the average, but it's something reasonable because we can't fund the programs out of the general fund.
Well, and I'd go so far as to say, using the co-curricular comp model, we are looking at paying our coaches and activities directors, at more of a market rate, but yet we're coming in at an activity fee that's far below, so that's a very real comparison. So in neighboring districts or metro, how often would people normally look at activity fees?
So at Hopkins, we approved an entire fee schedule once a year. So I looked at what that schedule looks like, and it's huge. So I mean, it's a big endeavor to make sure we've captured everything, because you should really capture all of your fee revenue, all of your different charges. And so, I mean, it's probably 9 pages of fees and data, so it's a lot to gather, but I think it's a good exercise for us right now to be looking at everything we do, because there are a lot of things where we come in low. So these are activity fees. On the next page, I have parking as well as just another example, and this is just kind of scratching the surface where there's going to be other things where we should be looking at what other districts are doing, and not necessarily doing exactly what they do, but making sure that we're bringing in revenue as well, because it is to
support programs.
Exactly. Yep. So what this does for the activity fees is brings in an additional nearly $60,000 of revenue by increasing those costs. We have the 15-16 participation listed there. So,
Sarah, could you scroll up to parking?
oh, parking's on next.
Yep.
So parking, we're at $60, and you can see the neighboring districts around us.
It was not that 240?
Yeah. And I think Hopkins is close to that too, 250, 260, something like that. And Burnsville, did somebody say there was a reason they were at 100? I thought there was maybe some rationale behind that. But, so we're proposing bringing the parking fees from 60 to 100 because we're well below everyone else.
While we raise it, could we split it and go and break it down in next semester?
Can we what?
I mean, do we split it?
Oh, would be, I
Yeah,
haven't
we'll
asked,
monitor
but I
one.
would think that we let people do some type of plan. We'd have to ask the high
So for
school
kids
for
who get their
sure.
license halfway through the year.
Yeah, or
Semesters.
50/50.
Okay.
Prorated according to that?
For the community and everybody who is listening, raising the activities fees doesn't preclude anybody from participating in our activities. On top of the Alumni Association's Angel Fund, which will fund activities and equipment for kids in needs. We also, as a district, have scholarship funds for any kid who would like to participate. And I did talk to John Jenke today, and he said that in 11 years, we have never said no to a student who couldn't pay these fees. So it's not something I don't think that will preclude anybody from being able to participate.
And all of these have like family maxes and things like that. So if you've got multiple kids in these sports, this increase isn't going to affect that. I mean, we'll probably do the same $30 increase to those family maxes and hold everything else.
Yeah, I would just echo what both of you just said, right? The Shakopee Alumni Association is a fantastic organization, and they do a great job of raising money for this purpose, to make sure that kids get to be in activities. And all you have to do is ask. I think if you ask Chrissy or John Jenke, they know who to get in contact with, they know how to get the funding. And we're not gonna let any kid not play or not take part in something for financial reasons.
Tough one to do, but probably necessary.
Is this charged at the beginning? Like, I know as we get bigger as a school, there's gonna be kids that are gonna be. So do they pay this at the beginning, or do they pay it to make it?
I know, I've seen it done multiple ways. I think that the registration software allows you to refund directly to the card that it's on. So I can't say that with 100% confidence, but I think the software we use.
There ought to be, since it's by participation.
Yeah, do you think you
So
know?
if they're not on the team,
I just know that you pay it before you try out to do any of that, whether or not it's refunded if you don't make the team. I think some of the ones this year were, and I'm gonna speak for baseball ones, but I know we have to pay it, and they have to have their physicals before they can start the tryout process.
Yep.
Yeah. I know that they refund, it's just a matter of how that process works, if the system lets them, just puts it right back on their card, or if they wrote a check.
And if you've met me, you know that I anticipate very soon for those programs that we are cutting a significant number of kids that I would like to initiate some. Yep. So that kids who want to participate can participate.
Especially in the field also.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Suzanne with regards to parking and or activity?
I think you need to act on the admission fee too.
Do we need to do these separately or can we do them together?
We were talking about that last paragraph.
Yeah, it's all in the one item, so I just assumed they talk about that as well.
So.
Oh, yes. The admission.
The other item is increasing the admission fees by $1 for, we have in here adults, but it would actually be $1 for students and adults. So right now it's 4 and 6, go up to 5 and 7. Activities office says that's absolutely comparable with everybody else.
It is.
Visiting students.
And it doesn't affect any of our students.
Oh, visiting students.
Yeah, let's make sure we clarify.
Our students are still free with their
Badge.
Yep.
Our ID, yes.
So our staff members.
Yep.
with their
Badge. And so our, what do we put? Grandparents or senior citizens, they are also welcome to a pass at no cost if they want to be, as long as they're residents of Shakopee.
And that will also be the case for parking. So right now, people who are over 62 can park at the high school for free.
Do we have
Is that right?
students that are 62 years old?
No, I mean, on the parking side, somebody had asked about, didn't you ask it? No? I thought somebody said that people who come to the high school to use like the gyms and stuff like that, that they had got a pass where they could park there for free and we would let them continue to use that passed, so there's not any charge in this, but I can look to see what that, I thought it was in relation to.
Well, that's nice, huh?
Somebody had asked about it, I know. So.
Yeah, really.
Yes,
Yeah.
so upping the fees by $1, and also because you said it multiple times, the activities office would like to enforce that everyone show ID if they're asking to get in free to an event, that whether it be a student or an employee or whatever, that we are showing that, or that they will.
I think that's fair.
And
Yeah.
that will also allow us to get more data to how many kids are going to the games and from what schools and et cetera, correct?
Okay, any more questions or comments for Suzanne regarding these three buckets? So I'll entertain a motion to authorize the increases to activity and parking and admissions as described.
I'll make that motion.
Sean?
Second.
Second by Mary. Any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. And stay where you are, because you got one more. That's 8.2, long-term facilities maintenance.
Do you want this?
That's Chris too.
Did you guys get this in your packet, Archie?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, I'll start. As you know, every year, you undertake projects with your long-term facilities levy. This year's projects, some of which, obviously, the bids have been awarded, are Sweeney, West Junior High, the hot waters and the boilers there, along with Sunpath Elementary's roof replacement. This needs approval by the board and gets submitted to the Minnesota Department of Ed, so that they know you're using the funding. They keep dead on this. So I guess, I don't know that I've ever been here for this. We ask for a motion for approval.
Do we need to approve them as three individual items, or can we do?
I think you just approve that these are this year's projects. And again, the following years are just a snapshot of what we believe to be the priorities. They have changed for the last 5 years since I've been involved in this, so it's kind of all priority based. And it's also what projects will fit within the necessary funding.
Right.
So that you can get a complete project out of it, so. So I guess, just looking for approval of the projects, obviously they're already, you've approved the projects individually, but this would be the step of sending the information on to the MDE, so that they're aware of what you're actually doing and you're utilizing the funding.
And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but again, for the benefit of the board, the BOC talked about combining the projects at the boiler upgrade and the hot water heater, because if we did it together, even though that was planned for an out year, so it's gonna cost more to do this summer, we actually save money by doing them together, I guess, opening up the system and what have you. So that's what's reflected here. We talked about this once before. BOC obviously recommended that we move ahead, and that's why you're seeing we're tapping into some funding that had been left over from bond fund, because we can tap into that.
And just kind of looking ahead to summer of 2018, could you give us a little preview maybe for those of us that go to junior high west parking lot? Let us know what improvements.
Well, as you're aware, you may not be aware, there's barricades in the parking lot right now.
there is. Very good.
Relearned, or people were taught how to use the parking lot so that we didn't have the congestion on the outlying roads anymore.
Yeah.
This would basically be making those permanent in some form, taking the barricades away, and either, another option that's been discussed is getting the buses off of 10th as well. So we bring those on into the parking lot, because now that it's a junior high, there is more than enough parking space on site to also bring the buses in there as well. So it's also something we've been looking at, so that's what those dollars are set aside for at this time.
I'm glad. Looking forward to that too.
And then I guess the other two in conjunction with Pearson
converting back to a K-5 school. There's some roofing and some mechanical work that would probably be beneficial to undertake at that time as well.
I think I feel like I'm doing a Bach report here, but I'm gonna call everybody's attention to the note, if you read that as well. This came up at our last meeting. Because the long-term facility maintenance funding is generated by the age of your facilities, obviously with the new high school coming online, doubling the size of the high school, that's gonna impact our overall age.
Yeah.
So all the note is saying is that we're trying to figure out is when it completes, when it goes online, maybe that's what you're gonna get to.
So that's the diagram I've got up, Ricky beat me to it. So, the red areas are the current phase that's underway right now. Those are, what the MDE does is they look at the space that's available or basically being utilized as of January 1st of the given year. So we're moving towards January 1st of 2018. That's the date they'll use to, I guess, take the first hit against the funding, because as your building age gets younger, it will actually reduce the formula, you will not get as much money. What Suzanne and I are trying to figure out right now with the Minnesota Department of Ed is they really have not addressed a project of this magnitude making an impact on the district to this extent. I think it drops, if you take all the square footage, it drops the aggregate building age by almost 5 years, I think. So you're adding over 350,000 square feet of building that's brand new. Plus we're actually remodeling some that could be seen as new construction as well. So that's what we're trying to get the answers to so we can make a final determination, because that could take effect next year, which would also lower the money available, which would mean we'd have to readjust what is priority, as well as future years. Again, it starts building up,
Right.
because that's the way the formula works, but just keep in mind every time you add a school or do something new to a school, that does affect the formula. And Shakopee's a growing community, you're not the only community that's in this situation. The levy law, or the legislation that put this into effect, the goal was to give all districts an avenue to do their deferred maintenance, because it's the one area the districts really just, that's not really budgeted for. It's kind of an afterthought, for lack of a better word. So this funding really is the only avenue this funding can be used for, is deferred maintenance. The law is really being felt out yet. I mean, the legislature's tried to put something in effect that would work. It has other effects out in rural Minnesota as well, so it's not a perfect law by any means, but it does give you an avenue to do these projects. It's just that because of the high school project specific, this will make a significant hit. I think in total of 500,000, we believe, but again, where that lands, we're trying to find out. So the first phase, let's call it, which is the locker rooms, the competition gym, the weight room, the classroom tower, and the wrestling room addition, that basically equals 151,586 square feet. So that's about half of what we're at. Comes online. The two orange areas are kind of question mark. They may be online as of January 1st if it's beneficial. They may not be. That's one thing we're looking at right now. So the field house, again, is not completed until technically January of 2018, but if that date becomes the 5th, or if it's actually December, we have to weigh that a little bit to see strategically what makes sense.
Because I
could
want it to be
correct
January 13th.
Right,
Yeah,
when the district would take possession of
Right.
it. So.
The only problem is just what the state does with it. Do they look at it and say, well, you did this now, but we get the sense that that was done early, and then they retro it back? And so they don't really want to give me an answer as to what I should do. So they're kind of leaving it up to our discretion as to when we add.
So there's really two options here. The blue obviously is all the next summer's work completed by 2018. And then the lighter areas are the remodel areas that are kind of corresponding with those two phases, if we want to break it down that simply.
For the benefit of people who maybe don't understand the formula, and just to reiterate myself so that I'm understanding it properly, the formula consists of the state taking the age, the year built of every one of your buildings, adding it in aggregate, and then
It's a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah,
It's
it's
square
some,
footage.
it's square footage of when it was built, how old it is, but they don't take each building individually, it's an aggregate
It's
of,
an aggregate, yes.
every
Because
building
it
in your
creates
district.
an average.
Right, so if you build a new elementary school, the age of all your buildings goes down.
And I think if they're over 35 years old, then there's something special where it's not prorated and allocated, but when you're under that, then you're doing a percentage of it, and so.
35, it basically hits a flat line. That's the max you can get out of that part of the formula.
Okay.
But again, it builds to that, and anything younger than that obviously takes steps to get there.
Right. Okay.
So I'm just gonna ask this question because I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, when did we know that we were gonna have a negative impact adding to this building?
It's been discussed since I've been here, so I mean, it's.
Probably discussed in the last 6 months, like 6 to 8 months.
That there was some potential, but as far as going back to when the referendum was passed back in 2015, that's what
The
I'm.
long-term, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know this, but the long-term facilities maintenance bill only came online 2 years ago at most.
About the same time as the bond.
Right, so I don't think we had an
That's
idea,
my point.
yeah, as part of the referendum, we weren't able to say, oh, and by the way, this is gonna, no, we didn't know that. This is a new funding source in the last couple of years.
Was the alternative facilities based on average?
No, that was
Years.
an entirely different formula.
Okay.
So just another element to add to
That
budgeting
is
fund.
very new, yep.
Yeah.
So again, Suzanne and I are working through this. We hope to have an answer in the next couple weeks. Because really our two choices are do it per the phases or wait and you take a big hit. And then that's the danger. If we take the big hit, are they gonna retroactively come back and make a decision because they've made the decision in other districts that, no, we really need to be phased and you'll take a hit on future years of funding.
Just doing a combination of trying to reach out to other districts to ask their thoughts on it. Because Andy just kind of said, we'll follow the directions, whatever you have on January 1, put in there. I'm like, okay. So, yeah, I can follow their instruction, but you just want to do, I think conservatively, whatever the best thing is to do, because I wouldn't want to wait and let it all ride at the end
Yeah.
versus, you know, doing part of it just to play it safe.
Okay, any other questions or comments with regards to the long-term facility maintenance schedule? All right, if not, I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Angela and Matt, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, and that motion carries. Thanks, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you
I was
guys.
talking about the grandparents' activity pass.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that's what you were talking about, but I wasn't sure and I wasn't gonna.
Same thing.
Yeah, very cool.
All right, item 9 is other. So do we have any other? Nope, other? All right, let's go to 10, any committee reports?
We had a finance committee meeting tonight, but we talked about everything we covered. So I don't think there's really much to provide an
Yeah.
update on.
And I provided mine earlier. It's a discussion item.
I have nothing in committee meetings.
Nope. Okay. All right, let's quickly go around the horn, all our staff. Dave, anything else?
Yeah, I'm good.
Good. Brian? Nance?
Some things happening the next couple of weeks, and we have quite a few of our teachers in the next couple of weeks at the elementary level. We're doing some training as we have in the past. This year with third grade, as part of the ongoing roll-up of all-day K. So we are doing some training with them. In a couple of weeks, we're also doing quite a bit of curriculum development around some of the new electives, primarily at the high school for next year. And also we have some work that we're doing with the leadership team at the high school, our counselors and our administration around preparing for the academy model in the fall of 2018. So quite a bit going on with our teachers and staff these next couple of weeks through teaching.
Thank you. Keith? Anything exciting?
I don't have anything for you.
All right, very good, that's all
Good
right.
answer.
Julie?
We're just continuing on with, yes, well,
Ashley?
The communications department is working with Dave to build a new website around attendance areas. So once some of the scenarios are finalized, we'll make that website live, and that's where people can go to take a look at the different scenarios, to plug in their address to see where they fall, and also get up-to-date information about some of the learning and listening sessions, as well as the parent task force.
Is there any way on that website that people could submit a question?
That
In
would be
case they
part of
can't
it as
make,
well.
yeah, in case they
Yeah.
can't make it to the forums, maybe they have, maybe something comes to them and they have an idea or a thought that would be
Yeah,
relevant.
and also on the website, we'll have a Q&A,
Okay.
and we'll be able to build on that.
Okay.
Based on the questions that we receive.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Barry? Anything? Matt? Nope. Angela?
Just want to say thanks to Kevin for stepping up for us.
Don?
No, I got nothing else.
Good.
Good. Sarah?
Good, thank you.
Okay, well, it's been a very robust June, I will say that. And tonight was a good night. We had a lot of things that we needed to cover, some of which actually have been tabled for a while in light of the conditions on the ground, so thanks for everybody for sticking with us. Upcoming meetings, item 11 here, a couple dates here. We got CFAC tomorrow evening. We've got a personnel committee on the 13th, and we've got a learning session scheduled for the 24th, and then August, you can see those items there. If there's nothing else, we're gonna move on to 12, but before we do 12, I just wanna talk about 13, and that is, thought we'd try something different this time, since we're at a point now in our rebuilding, shall we say, where it's important for us to have open dialogue, and an open dialogue that's more of a meaningful conversation. So instead of this being this room against, or this half of the room against maybe that half of the room, regardless, we're gonna break free from this room, and we're gonna go up to the front lobby in the smaller tables. We're just gonna break up into small groups, so each individual board member is just gonna hit a table and come up and visit with any one of us for as long, I don't say as long as you want, because there's people that may want to also chat with an individual board member. So we'll give you a half hour to just have a little bit of one-on-one dialogue. Again, not necessarily a time or place to solve all of the world's problems, but want to start changing the tone of the dialogue, I guess, and just really starting to move into more active engagement. So that's what we're going to do on 13. With that, I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Don, Tony, any discussion on the adjournment? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We are adjourned.